I'm Melanie Johnson, along with my co-host Jen Foster. We are both 13-time best-selling authors. We've published over 2,500 books and made all of our authors #1 bestsellers. We own Elite Online Publishing. If you want to become a best-selling author, look us up at eliteonlinepublishing.com. Now, welcome to the podcast that shares secrets from top industry experts that show you how to get lasting success and results. This is the Elite Expert Insider Podcast. It's Melanie Johnson. I hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful day because I know we are here. Thanks for coming today. Hey, Jen, how are you doing?
It's a wonderful day. We're super excited to learn all of the amazing stuff we're going to learn today.
All right, we're going to dive into some of what we're going to learn today. You know what? People have had to pivot their businesses, and most of them have to become online businesses. Even if you weren't online before, you are now online now. And if you're not, you better rush to get there. And then, there's people like my son who has this Instagram business, and he didn't know he should have an LLC and incorporate. And if he didn't, he would be paying huge taxes. So if you want to learn how to set your business up, even if it's a side hustle, set it up correctly, get it so it's organized from a business perspective, and make sure legally you are all set up the way you should be to maximize your business and optimize it, you're in the right place today. We have the expert, Heather Campbell, who is here, and she is going to help us learn all of this stuff and do it the right way, not the wrong way, which will save you money, save you taxes, and could save you from getting sued. That's really important. Hey, Heather, welcome. Thanks for coming today.
Thank you. It's so great to see you, Melanie and Jen. It's awesome to be here.
Awesome. Well, tell us, Heather, a little bit how you got started in this and what made you want to be a legal advisor.
Absolutely. So the funny thing is growing up, I never once thought about becoming an attorney. It was something that, again, happened pretty naturally. We were talking about things that happen organically. And while I was in undergrad studying finance and economics, I was really heavy into business. I knew I wanted more schooling, but I didn't want more business. And so at the time, I was actually taking a business law class, and then I was in an advanced writing course, and I don't even know how I chose the topic. I was actually writing my final paper on legal ethics. So it made me I had to do a bunch of research into the legal profession, actually reach out and speak to some attorneys. And it just kind of clicked for me. In conversations with my mom, I was like, it just feels like a fit. So it ended up being that I applied to 2 schools, got into my top choice, and off and away I went.
That's awesome. Well, let's talk about what are the starting things we should do. All right, I'm starting a business online. I'm getting sales. What should I have done maybe even before I did that? Or gosh, it just happened and I didn't know it was going to start to take off. What should I be doing?
Absolutely. So let's walk through a couple of the buckets. I have a 5-bucket framework for legal protection for small businesses. So we can talk a lot today about the first and second bucket. Bucket number 1 is incorporation. And we were talking a little bit about this before we got started, but this really is essential for anybody that cares about separating out their business liability from your personal assets, right? If you're a sole proprietor, which means you're an unincorporated business, and people are like, oh, what is a sole proprietor? You might have registered a DBA with the state, but you did not set up an LLC, a C Corp, either one of those entities, and make an S Corp election. People often ask about S Corps, right? You did not actually file and register a new entity with the state. So that's step number 1. And just like you said with your son, there's some big advantages to having an incorporated business. One is tax advantages, right? You immediately get to write off some things in regards to your business that you don't get to do as a sole proprietor. It widens the advantages in the tax bracket that are available to you. And second, and people often don't think about this, there is a huge mindset shift that happens when people make the choice to incorporate and really treat their business like a business. They show up differently. They treat their business differently. They start putting other supports in place for their business that they otherwise usually wouldn't have done if they remained a sole proprietor. So it's huge. That's really the first thing that people should be thinking about.
I really love that you talked about the mind part of it, because a lot of times people are just like, get the LLC, you'll get the tax benefits, that's the LLC. But there is a whole nother part to it, because you do know, your friend on the street who has a company on the side where they sell something and they're sole proprietor, and they do treat it like on the side, because
Yes.
because they don't even think of it as a business. Oh, that's not, I just sell a few things. But if they really did incorporate, they could sell lots more things, because they will treat it like a business. I love how you said that.
Well, thank you. And it really is true. It's the difference for anybody that's taken on clients, and especially at the start of anybody's career, where some people are like willing to do work for free. But the difference between paying for something, so if you have a client that pays well for something, they're going to show up as differently than a client who is getting a free service or doing something for free. And it's the same in your business. When you take the step to pay a filing fee, to register your business, to hire an accountant to help you take care of that incorporated entity, you show up differently. And then your clients show up differently. So it's like this circle. It's a win-win. It changes the way you relate to your business.
All right, well, let's get to those other 4 buckets that you were talking about.
Yes. Bucket number 2 is business contracts. And this is a big bucket. Like, if in my visual presentation, people often see this bucket because it's larger than the rest. But this is where, if you think of your bucket number 1, your incorporated business as the foundation, like literally imagine a foundation, like a big wooden slab or concrete slab or something. And then bucket number 2, business contracts, protects the machinery of your business. So I really think about people's businesses like a machine. They've got lots of moving parts. They're delivering services. Maybe they're working with vendors or independent contractors or employees. You have all these ways that you are exchanging value in your business. And this includes being online, even having a website up where people can consume free information. That's an exchange of value. And so your business contracts, really think of that as like a layer of protection around that machine, around that piece of equipment. And there's a lot of things to think about when it comes to business contracts. But if you just remember the phrase that I use, exchange of value. Anytime there's an exchange of value in your business, you need to be asking yourself, what contract do I need to cover this exchange, right? And what does that mean? So an exchange of value is publishing a free article or tips or a blog on your website. People show up and they consume that, right? And that's value. Maybe you are hiring your first independent contractor. That's an exchange of value. You're going to be exposing proprietary information, assets inside your business to that person, and they're going to be doing work for you in exchange for pay. You need a contract in place for that. Maybe you've got your standard client services, or you're doing group work. All of those things are ways that we exchange value in business, and you need a contract in place for each of those scenarios. Affiliates, joint ventures, right? The list goes on and on. But the business contracts bucket's a big one. And in regards to any of the buckets, because the other thing I have to remind people at the outset, just like other things, just like marketing, right? You were talking about the amazing marketing plans you put in place for your clients. Those evolve over time, right? It's not like a set it and forget it. And as your business evolves, the same is true with your legal needs. It's not a set it and forget it. So as your business grows and as you have new areas in your business develop, you have to ask yourself, is there a new need here? Do I need to reevaluate this bucket?
And update it. And I want to make a comment on that, because the the social media world has exploded, and these new businesses have started, and I have a son who's involved in this stuff, and it's interesting to me how these transactions are happening between different people, and it's not even a phone call, it's a DM, direct message, and they say, hey, I want to buy blah from you, an advertising service, or post my ad on your Instagram. And they say, okay, and here's the price. And they do a PayPal exchange, and there's nothing written at all. Nothing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys are like, none of you are incorporated. You're exchanging money back and forth. There's no verbal contract. There's no written contract of what you're giving, what the services are. I'm just like, holy cow, this whole world is happening. It's like the wild, wild west. Great.
I love that you use that phrase. I've said this for years, that the online world of business is the wild west of business, and
Mm,
rules and regulations are just really now starting to catch up with the pace of business that we do online. But it's still, we evolve quicker. Obviously, we evolve more quickly than
yeah.
those rules can keep up.
Mhm.
But this is the thing that is so exciting about being online, is the opportunity is massive. Like, somebody can literally be in business overnight, throw up a website, start a channel, do something, make an offer, right? And they may have no idea what they're doing from a legal perspective. And so the analogy I like to use is, just like you're driving down the freeway at 75 miles an hour or whatever, you're presumed to know the speed limit. Same is true in business. And just because the online, World Wide Web is available to you doesn't mean that you should be there doing all the things unless you know the rules, because you are presumed to know the laws that apply to your particular business. So it is interesting. I mean, it's fun to hear about the stories, and I like to go like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Depending on the amount of money changing hands, depending on exactly what's going on, there are some real risks that you have to think about. And just pausing long enough to insert a few steps in between the engagement and the payment would really help you in the long run.
Yeah.
Well, and you hear like horror stories of people that say, oh, like they did a chargeback on the PayPal and I've already given them the service. And then you're like, oh, well, that now they just got for free because PayPal gave them their money back and just took it out of your bank account. And you're just like, wait, what? And because there was nothing in place and you didn't have anything set up the right way. So
This is such a good example. What you just mentioned, Jen, has happened. First of all, the upticks in chargebacks, first of all, during COVID, huge. People are desperate for money. People are feeling the pinch. And so they're not always making the best, most ethical choices, right? But the number of times I've been contacted during COVID because of people saying, like, out of the blue, out of nowhere, this client just did a chargeback and they didn't even talk to me about it. Like, we didn't even have a chance to try to, negotiate or settle it. And I had a friend who contacted me, $20,000 engagement, right? And nothing in place to cover that. And money just got handed back. Another guy recently, just 2 weeks ago, a colleague of a friend of mine also reached out, same thing, $6,000 marketing service that he had done for an online company just got handed back, and he'd already delivered the service. It's brutal. And all you need between point A and point B is some funnel, some process where they have to make a stop to your online legal terms and conditions, your terms of purchase, specifically for anything that you're selling. Make sure that you've got those properly drafted, you have them in place, and they're acknowledged, whether it's a signed contract or whether it's, everybody has seen the check the box style, like iTunes, I have read and agreed to the terms of purchase. You have to track that acknowledgement so that in the instance of a chargeback, you could show your process, show that somebody literally cannot buy the service without acknowledging those terms. And then, oh, by the way, here's the full copy of the terms. And you just have all your ducks in a row. You're way more likely to win that process than if you are just flying by the seat of your pants.
Absolutely. That happened to us, and we had all the processes in, and American Express said, "You're right. Here's your money back. You delivered the service. He signed the contract. Everything is right there." And then I'm just going to jump back. A partner of my son, they went into business, and before that, he was selling some kind of phone cases, and he made like $200,000, and didn't have an LLC. And then he got this tax thing, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, I owe like $50,000 in taxes." And he had no idea that was coming. So, it makes just a huge difference. All right, on to bucket number 3.
Bucket number 3 is business insurance, right? I'm not an insurance salesman, but I get a lot of questions about insurance. And in the US, there are something like 13 different business insurance policies available for small businesses. And it largely depends on what you're doing in your business, right? If you are an online entrepreneur and you offer live events, you need a very different kind of insurance than somebody who is strictly working behind telephones and, through the internet. If you have employees, that puts you in a different bucket, right? If you provide an in-person service to your clients, that you need a different kind of insurance than if you don't have any face-to-face interaction. So insurance is really about getting a product tailored to your specific needs, just like homeowners insurance. Most people that will hear this presentation have homeowners or rental insurance in place, and you get asked questions like, do you own a dangerous dog? Do you have a swimming pool? Do you have a trampoline? What is your home like? What activities are you doing in your home? They want to know that so that they can insure specifically against the risks that are applicable to your life. Same with business. So my recommendation for insurance is connect with a broker, establish a long-term relationship. This is a need that will probably change over time. A business insurance broker is going to really have eyeballs on the marketplace. They're not attached to a specific insurance provider, which means you're going to get more competitive rates, better policies, and again, really focus on developing that relationship so that over time, as your needs change, you can update those policies.
Smart.
Yeah.
And number 4, what's number
Bucket
4?
number 4 is an intellectual property protection plan, right? So small businesses drastically undervalue their IP. When I speak live and I ask like an audience the question, like, what percentage of your business valuation do you think comes from your IP? I don't know. What's your guess?
Oh, like ours or a general business? Intellectual, I would say like 25%, maybe.
That's often get the range that I get from people. Most of my clients, the value of their business that comes from their IP is closer to 80 or 90%. It's the vast majority. It's their business systems, it's their databases, it's their, all of this proprietary information that we build up inside our businesses. And so what happens is people kind of opt themselves out. And when I say people, I see my ideal clients often opt themselves out of thinking that they need to pay attention to some of the big business strategies like trademark registrations or copyright registrations, or really taking care of their intellectual property in the way that they should. Licensing agreements, if they're doing things with their IP and allowing other people to use it, or non-disclosure agreements. How many people in your circles, I know tons in mine, that get into high-end masterminds and joint venture type of groups and are sharing lots of really valuable information that's happening inside their business, and then people take it. They take that idea, they go do that thing, right? And so at every step when you're making disclosures, you have to be thinking about your IP as a monetary asset. Where are you disclosing it? How do you need to protect it? Because just like the other example of all it takes is 1 or 2 stops before you get to the end goal, you can put some protections in place to really take care of your IP in the way that you should. And so trademarks, copyrights, and then contracts. And I know we already covered the contract bucket, but contracts are one of the primary ways that we can really care for our intellectual property.
Awesome. And what's the 5th bucket? Oh, did you have a comment, Melanie? Sorry.
No, I just thought that was so eye-opening.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, small businesses, and this is partly why I'm so dedicated to the education side of our legal needs in this space, is because small businesses just don't have the same resources available to them that larger businesses do. And so they have to pick and choose sometimes. They have to say, well, we're going to prioritize here versus here. But at least if they have the legal roadmap, they can tell how to generally prioritize their legal needs against each other so that they can at least stair step and take care of those legal needs in an appropriate order. A lot of people are cherry picking. They don't have the map, and so they think well, my business coach told me this, or my friend in business who I admire does this, and so I need to go do this, and that may not be applicable on their particular map. Bucket number 5 is dispute resolution plan. You could also call this communication plan, right? You have to have a communication strategy for your business that decreases client disputes, decreases client confusion, minimizes disputes. And the way that you do this, I mean, you guys are brilliant in marketing, and so you know the importance of creating consistent messaging from the very early points that somebody gets exposed to somebody's business or work or book or whatever you're working with, all the way along to the client enrollment experience, the fulfillment of those services, right? So it's really about looking at your business and asking yourself at every touch point along the way, especially before you enroll a client, are you properly setting client expectations? Are you using consistent and clear language? Are you setting them up to have the experience you want them to have and that you truly deliver? Because the biggest thing that causes disputes in a client scenario is they're surprised by something, usually unpleasantly. They thought it was going to look like X and instead it looked like Y, right? Certainly, and like we're talking about the chargeback scenario, certainly there are other things that can lead to that. Sometimes people just have emergencies in their life and they become a problem client, right? Not because they necessarily wanted to be, but there are certainly some things that you can do to really minimize the potential for dispute. And because the first part of my career was half in litigation, half in transactional, I see what happens when small businesses get dragged into litigation, and it's miserable. Like there's a whole set of statistics we could go through, but the bottom line is I work really hard to keep people's businesses running smoothly and the pavement clear of obstacles so that they can go fast and go far.
I think this one is like one of the biggest ones because, having served hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of clients over the last 15 years of me being in business, you feel like you have the communication, you feel like you have everything in place, but there's just certain clients that just want things for free, or certain clients that just want to nitpick at everything you did and say, you didn't give me what you said you were going to give me, because they just want to be that problem client and they want their money back, even though you gave them what you said you were going to give them. And so you really have to have that communication in place. You have to have your terms and conditions in place. You have to have all of those things in place legally, or else they can just say, well, you didn't give me what I asked for and I want all my money back.
That's right. And it's, I tell people, because the kind of client you're talking about, I call them red flag clients, right? We have red flag scenarios in our business and we have red flag clients. And we through the just course of being in business for years, we get better at spotting those clients before we let them in the door. But the reality is that business is really a game of numbers. You cannot always keep those people out of your business if you're doing a lot of business. And so sometimes we still end up with those people in our client, in our database or in our client group or in our group coaching work or whatever it is that we're doing. And so you do have to have some stopgap measures in place to protect against that, because you're exactly right. There's only so much that your early communication, your business policies, all of that will do. At the end of the day, some people are still stinkers.
Well, but if you put these 5 things into place, the goal is to make sure you have all the stop gaps, you've protected yourself, you've given yourself that layer, you're doing it the right way, and it's going to pay for itself. Just the tax ramification itself is huge, huge. I'm just telling you.
That's
if
right.
You have anything, you need to put it into a company right away. That's like the first building block. So it does pay for itself. Thank you so much for coming today.
You're so welcome. What I tell people is these 5 buckets are like putting wheels on your machine. It's really to help your business go farther, faster. And it is, especially that last bucket. I mean, a lot of people think like, well, what is my budget? I can't pay for all this. You can't afford not to if you're planning to take your business to, point Z. If you really want a business that's going to grow and provide the influence you want, you can't afford not to.
I love that. Well, tell everyone where they can go to find you on your website. And it looks like you have a podcast too. Tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'd love to have you come stop by. My website is legalwebsitewarrior.com. If you want to go / legal basics bootcamp, you can get training. Like, it's just a free video training. It's designed to be like a few minutes over 5 days. more in detail of what we just covered, right? And then it'll give people access to some additional resources, help them understand like what contracts do I need, etc. So that's a great resource for people that want to just go a little bit deeper. And then, yes, I also have a podcast. It's called Guts, Grit, and Great Business. You can find it on Apple iTunes and all the places. That's a place where I really love to have conversations with people who love business, and they range all sorts of topics. It's a lot of mindset. It's a lot of business success strategies. It's a lot of all the typical things you would cover in business: marketing, sales, visibility, how to do all the things. And so there are some amazing people on there really sharing some of their best tips and lots of personal insights as well. This whole journey of being an entrepreneur and especially right now during COVID, balancing real life and work. We all face our own challenges. So it's a place that I just love to show up and have conversations that, in my mind, my goal is to help people with their endurance, help people with their perseverance so that they get to where they really want to be going.
Well, that sounds like great advice. We'll check your podcast out and put it in the notes. And we hope you had a great time here and learned a great thing. I mean, those 5 buckets were really, really important. So if you want, just make sure you write them down. They'll be in the show notes as well. And if you're looking to write a book and becoming a #1 best-selling author and take all the knowledge that you have and put it in one place and gain credibility in the marketplace and get media attention, then the right place to call is Elite Online Publishing, because we help you make it a #1 bestseller. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Hey, are you looking to increase your revenue, build credibility, and elevate your brand? This podcast is brought to you by Elite Online Publishing, an innovative publishing and full spectrum marketing company. They will publish and market your book to make it a #1 bestseller. Becoming an author is the best way to market your business. So contact them at eliteonlinepublishing.com today. All of their authors become #1 bestsellers.